Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Friday and welcome to the Storyteller's Corner. This is a series where we look at various different stories and characters in our modern popular fiction that is just kind of uplifting and restorative and inspiring. And this week we're going to be looking at my childhood favorite, Doctor Who. The series began in 1963. It ran through to 1989. Then there was a TV movie in 1996, and then after that, the series restarted, essentially picking up where we left off in 2005. If you're not familiar with the show Doctor Who, it revolves around a character who's called the Doctor, and we've never heard his true name. It's a big secret. If he gives any kind of pseudonym, it's always John Smith. And he has a ship that's called the TARDIS, and that allows him to travel through time and space. And it looks like an old-fashioned British police box from back in the day. The Doctor is part of a species who call themselves the Time Lords, and they originate from a planet called Gallifrey. And Time Lords, they have this unique ability to regenerate themselves when their bodies wear out, or after they've experienced a severe injury or severe illness. And this causes their external appearance to change, and it kind of jumbles up all of their interchangeable parts, and you don't know what kind of personality you might be dealing with next after there. It's still the same character, but just some traits are, become stronger, other traits received, and so every time you have a different actor who comes in to play the Doctor, you have a slightly different spin on the character, and it's one of the things that's kept it so interesting and so fresh through the years. Now, one of the other things about multiple actors playing the role of the Doctor is that each time you have a regeneration, it represents a particular stage in the Doctor's life, and that's something that in recent years they've really built upon, until the most recent incarnation, who I will not be referencing all that much. This is the Doctor as portrayed by Jodie Whittaker. Her tenure has been nothing more than woke propaganda, and it has twisted this beloved series beyond all recognition, so I'm not recommending any episodes from her particular era. I'm not so much really blaming the actress, although I've gotten the impression she is kind of part of the woke crowd. The fault is really with the writers, and it's with the people who are pushing writers to go in this particular direction. So we're going to be looking at the pre-woke Doctor Who, which is the story that actually has some value. So let's think about the character of the Doctor in his capacity as a rebel, because that's how we first encounter him at the very beginning of all of his history and lore. He has essentially been banished. Well, and I say banished, but also he is someone who voluntarily left his people. He found his spaceship and he ran off and he ran across the galaxy. And he said that he essentially didn't want to have any part of the Time Lords. And of course, his issue with them is that he did not like how they were doing business. He did not like the way they were conducting their affairs. He did not like the culture of what they had become, which was something very stultified and something that was very confining and constrictive. It was structure for the sake of structure, and it wasn't really allowing for exploration or inquiry or any of the things that the Doctor really does value, because he wants to see the universe, not to impose his will on it, not to decide what he will and will not do with it, but simply just to see it as it is, with all of its majesty and glory and confusion and possibilities. He absolutely gets off on that. I mean, that is his drug. That is absolutely his. It is the whole focus of his life. He loves it. It's why he goes to gather knowledge. And of course, he finds a lot of different and very creative ways to use that knowledge. And he usually has at least one or more companions who travel along with him in the TARDIS, because if there is one thing that his rebellion from the Time Lords resulted in, is that he did become lonely. Lonely for companionship in general, and also lonely for people who understood any aspect of his nature. Now, whenever he has human companions, of course, there's certain things about being a Time Lord who's lived for more than 1,000 years that a human being is just not really going to be able to understand. They're not going to understand the intricacies of Gallifreyan politics, or how he, came about to be what he was. But what he needs is just someone who understands his spirit, and who can be there to rein him in when he needs to be his, his playmate and his partner in crime when he needs it. He does need to have someone. So, this brings us to the Doctor as a meddler and as a bit of a trickster. His changing appearance through all of his regenerations, that is part of the whole trickster element, is that what you see at him is it's never really the full story. He always knows more than what he lets on. There's always more threads weaving themselves into situations, and sometimes he mentions them, sometimes he keeps them to himself, sometimes it's the right call, sometimes it's the wrong. But he's always very involved. He is always a shaper. Because again, while he's not interested in controlling the universe or anything else, that doesn't mean that he doesn't consider himself to be a part of that universe. He doesn't consider himself and as not having a stake in what goes on. He absolutely does. And because he does care about people, a caring that I think is heightened because of his loneliness that he has had to struggle with, I think when he sees things that are going really wrong or that are really destructive or unhealthy, he is someone who says, well, things don't have to stay like that. And what you'll find in a lot of his adventures is that he will become that agent of change. He'll walk in, he'll be able to identify something that's going wrong in that society. He creates a ruckus. He removes the initial hurdle, the big obstacle, and then he'll go off and he'll let the people who stay behind and who live there full time to essentially decide what they're going to do with next. And sometimes it ends very well, and people have the opportunity to make better choices, and sometimes they fall into exactly the same kind of errors that they did before. But they have a chance. He enables people to have a chance, and he will create change, and he will motivate them to take some kind of action and to do something. And that's something that I find really rather endearing about this character. And then the third aspect of the Doctor I want to touch on is something that isn't necessarily as overt, but the Doctor is essentially a healer. Unlike other characters that you might see in a science fiction show, the Doctor, he's not one who carries weapons. If he carries anything on him, it's a sonic screwdriver. It's something that fixes things, and it has had a wide variety of uses ever since that was first introduced into the series. Again, you can't have the Doctor without having his sonic screwdriver. But also his very name, the Doctor. What do doctors do? They heal the sick. They repair the injuries of the injured. They are people who go in and who fix things. And I think the reason why he keeps presenting himself in that way is because it reveals a very deep-rooted need. He wasn't able to fix things where he came from. He wasn't able to fix his people. He couldn't persuade them. He couldn't change things where he was at, but he did go out and he found a way to put himself in a position to where he could change things for other people who he cared about when the situation called for it and when they needed a helping hand that he was in a position to wield. Because let's face it, just by the strength of his years alone, all that wonderful life experience, all of that scientific knowledge and capability, if he wanted to make something happen, he certainly could. And that's a kind of power, a kind of superpower almost. And it's not the power of, the body or some kind of psychic capability. It's just the power of applied knowledge and applied wisdom. And it's the power of a loving heart. And it's very interesting because you'll sometimes see glimpses that when he thinks of himself, he doesn't see himself as a particularly warm person or a loving person or a caring person. But all of his actions show that he is, and that this false idea he has in his head about who he is, that, he's all not that great. It simply isn't the case. There's a reason why his companions, love him, and some of them do fall in love with him. Others see him as, their very closest of friends. Others see him very much as family. But there's a reason why they do come to love him and why they care about him. Even in the times when he's driving them absolutely crazy, because he can be a little spazzy sometimes, there is still that love, and it's the reason why they can attach themselves so sincerely to him is because he has that deep, warm heart underneath. So, that's why I wanted to bring the Doctor essentially to everyone's attention in this particular series, is just because of the kind of character he is and what he represents to me and has represented to me since childhood. The fixer of the things. The person's like, yes, well, things need to change. It might make a bit of a mess, but, we'll be so much better off dealing with that mess than having this ongoing stagnation. And I can appreciate that on many, many levels. So I think that's it for now. If you've ever had a chance to watch the classic series of Doctor Who or the more recent series, I highly recommend it, except of course for the Jodie Whittaker era. The less said about that mess, the better. But by all means, pick out learn about the original Doctors, see if you have this same kind of reaction to their characters. Now, granted, when the series first started, it was television, 1960s. The special effects, well, adjust your expectations. That's all I'm saying. Try to see the story, try to see the character, and see if you just might fall as in love with this story, with this character as I have. But I think that's enough rambling from me for now. I will see you in another video, unless, of course, you come to see me at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There's a link to join in the description box below. And, of course, as always, please subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave a comment. I will see you later. Bye.